Welcome to episode 31 of Talking Prisoner. We have another amazing, talented guest with us today. She appeared in 16 episodes of Prisoner as a troubled relative of one of the prisoners. She's not only an actress of film and television, but she is also an accomplished musical theatre productions, including Annie, Les Miserables, My Fair Lady, Jesus Christ Superstar, Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Beautiful Game, and Jerry Springer, the opera. She is also known for Cabaret, both in Australia and the UK, where she's resided for 13 years, and for stand-up comedy. She's also a sought-after singing teacher. Her famous father also appeared in Prisoner. We are, of course, talking to Sally Bourne, who played the troubled daughter of top dog Myra Desmond. Welcome to Talking Prisoner.
Hi, thanks for having me. I see I've got my prison bars here for you for a bit of a backdrop.
This is a spin-off series of Myra Desmond's daughter.
Yeah, Myra's still, Kay's still waiting outside. Nice to talk to you.
Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
Now, before we do get into Prisoner and your... Sorry, Ken.
Nice to talk to you, Sally.
And you, Ken.
Can we start off about your life growing up? Where did you grow up as a child?
Grew up in Paran with obviously my two gorgeous parents and my sister. Went to school, or sort of always lived around that neck of the woods, well, until I moved to London, which was a little bit further away.
Fantastic.
And speaking of school, what were you like at school, and did you have a favourite or an unfavourite subject?
I don't, look, I mean, it's really funny for me when thinking about that, because I loved recess, I think, and lunchtime. I think they were my favourite subjects. And of course I did Annie when I was 12. So that was when I was in year 6. And then I went to, then I got sort of going to high school and everything. Sort of those teenage years, I was, not to sound like I'm up myself, but I was filming like ABC TV shows like I Could Jump Puddles and having done Annie. So the school side of it doesn't really stick in my mind that much.
Yeah. A bit like me.
Yeah, no, I was totally into all the sciences. I was a real intellectual.
And maths.
Yeah. I loved maths, my favourite subject.
Yeah, right. Like mine. Now, we know this is about this interview is about you, but can we just backtrack for a minute and just some memories from you about your father, Ernie Bourne? Just give us some little reflection on what he was all about, and the fact that he played Chef Mervin Pringle and Rob Lewis in Neighbours, but any other memories as well?
Oh, well, he was my dad, so there are a lot of memories. Look, it was, I think the best way to describe Dad is when we had at his funeral, we had a sing-along. We had beautiful Robin Arthur, who I did Annie with, he did Beauty and the Beast with, sang Beauty and the Beast. We ended up with, I've had the time of my life from Dirty Dancing, because that was his last show, and me and my sister were dancing in the aisles and all that. And actually, Elspeth Ballantyne, who you probably know was Meg, was that her name? Yeah, Meg. Elspeth walked out of the funeral and she said, well, I just want to cark it right now and go in and have that funeral, because that was the most fun thing. And I think, and so many people came out on that day and said, I worked with your dad, and he was he could talk the hind leg off a donkey. I remember being a kid and walking down the street, I was tiny, and so anyone would stop him and go, oh, Ernie, because he was quite recognisable. And he'd stop and chat for hours. Chat, never shut up. I don't know where I get this from. And so, yeah, incredibly generous, the most loving father. I've got a couple of photos. We've just been going through a lot of old photos of, him hugging me when I got off the plane when I came home from London, and, couldn't have been, the look on his face. It was funny because, you sort of think stage parents and stuff, but Mum and Dad were both very realistic about the industry and stuff. And Dad always, went through lines with me, and we'd go and have a little nap before going into the theatre because I was going to the Madge to do Annie and he was going to Tiki and John. So I thought it was funny that father and daughter having their 4 o'clock nap before they went to work because we didn't get back till 11. But yeah, look, Dad really, really loved working. He really loved entertaining people. He worked very hard. He had beautiful, beautiful instincts. And, you know, I don't know anybody who has ever said a bad word about him as a human or as I mean, and especially a lot of people I've met who said they did musicals with him, or, you know, he'd give them advice or be really gentle with, you know, sort of mentoring and wickedly funny and terribly inappropriate. He used to ring me up in London sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, forgetting what the time difference was, just to tell me a dirty joke. I'd be like, be like, oh, sorry, no, let me just tell you this joke. I just heard this joke. Let me tell you this gag. All right. Yeah, very, very warm, very funny, very brilliant, and great father.
Yeah.
I was lucky to work with him on Consider Your Verdict, Matlock Police, Prisoner, of course, and also on a show called Good Morning, Mr. Doubleday.
That's a name, Mr. Doubleday.
Yes, it was a show that's forgotten and probably deserves to be. But Ernie was just the same. He was great.
Yeah, he was a real character actor. You know, he loved playing all those. I mean, I think, you know, Matlock Police and Cop Shop and things like that. I mean, I know he played another role on Prisoner, didn't he? He played Colin Mann's boyfriend early on. But like on Cop Shop, they used to ring him, you know, they'd ring him once every 3 months, 6 months and say, oh, you've got a couple of days on Cop Shop, Ernie. Oh, what am I playing? Oh, to this time you're a priest, or you're a criminal, or you're the witness, or you're the, you know, husband, or the, you know, off you go. Do a couple of days, come back. Actually, I should look it up, but my memory might be wrong. Fans who can look this stuff up, please correct me. I think he played something like 24 characters on Cop Shop over
24.
I'm probably exaggerating. I am prone to a bit of exaggeration.
That's okay. Can I ask, was there any, he is so loved on Prisoner by the fans. The fans just adore Mervin. Was there any similarities between Mervin and your dad at all?
I think Mervin was a lot more of a simple chap than Dad, you know. Mervin was very sort of nervous and sweet, and yeah, I think Dad was Dad's definitely an actor. But I think, you know, with any character you do, there's certain little elements of yourself in there. But yeah, I think Mervin was, I mean, you know, Dad, and I say this with love and affection, Dad did have a bit of a, you know, could have a temper if someone rubbed him up the wrong way. But not, I'm not, you know, don't take that the wrong way, but I wouldn't think like Mervin would never sort of, especially, you know, Dad would be especially protective of us as a family, you know. So if someone was being a bit outrageous, he would stand up and say, look, hang on, you know. But I think Mervin was a bit quieter and a bit sort of more gentle than Dad, even though Dad was very gentle.
Do you mind? Sorry,
Matt, he also appeared in Magic Circle Club and Adventure Island on Channel 2 as well.
Yeah, and those children's TV shows were just so beautiful. I've actually got a little card of Dad in Adventure Island. There, see that? Look at that. Oh, hang on.
Oh, there we go.
Look at that. Look at those eyebrows.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Magic Circle Club and Adventure Island were ABC children's TV shows, and they were wonderful. They were real fantasy land. Dad and, well, these two gentlemen, which is Bert Cooper and Robert Essex, they were the baddies, as you can tell, because they look miserable. And they were always trying to muck things up on Adventure Island, where there were all these little cottages, and there was two bears and Flower Pots was actually a woman played by a man in the panto sort of fashion. John Michael Housen wrote it, and he was the clown.
Wow.
And so there was always this weekly thing of this beautiful fantasy land and something going horribly wrong. And, you know, it was original music every week. And excuse me, anybody I've ever met who's over the age of remembers it was such affection. And I remember going on set once and being just blown away. And also Dad played so many roles in that. He was Festive Fumble, that was his main role, but he was also, you know, the captain and the wind and the this and the that. And it was just, you know, fabulous. Excuse me, what terrible hay fever. Very attractive. And he was also at the beginning of the show opened with, like we were going into a storybook. So Sue Donovan, as she was then, would open the book and say, you know, welcome to Adventure Island, blah, blah, blah. And on her table was a cat called Samson the Cat, which was a puppet. And Dad did Samson the Cat. There were also two little, I think they were little parrots that were puppets as well. But Dad did one of those as well. And Samson the Cat was, I don't know, sort of iconic. And I remember my beautiful sister Elise had a birthday party once at our house. And Dad brought Samson the Cat home.
Wow.
and set up like a little sort of theaterette. And Samson came out and talked to the kids. Now, can you imagine what that? I mean, I don't know what the equivalent is of it now. I think it's Bluey, is it, or something like that, or
the Wiggles.
Yeah, the Wiggles. But can you imagine, like, what sort of kudos my sister got from that?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if Dad was legally allowed to take Samson the Cat away from Channel 2. So might have to just cut this bit out just in case of any.
We don't want you to be sued.
Please.
Do you mind if I just quickly, I found a really nice article on your dad a few days ago from the Sydney Morning Herald when your dad passed away. Do you mind if I just quickly read it for the fans?
Not at all. I think I've read the same one. Off you go.
Just take a couple of minutes. Okay, so like so many actors, Bourne did the rounds of Australian dramas, including Homicide, Matlock Police, Division 4, Cash and Company, Bluey, Cop Shop, and Carson's Law. He would joke about playing a murderer one week and a priest the next, which you mentioned. At least he had some light relief during 1974 when he became a regular guest on Channel 10's variety show, It's Magic, featuring Johnny Farnham and Colleen Hewitt. Bourne's potato peeling skills came in handy when he appeared in 81 episodes of Prisoner between 1985 and 1986 as Mervin Pringle, the Wentworth prison cook. Now, they said he went to marry on another officer, so they got that incorrect, so I fixed that. It was Joyce Barry. Then came another long-running role as the mechanic Rob Lewis in Neighbours, trying to keep tabs on his young apprentice, Charlene, which was played by Kylie Minogue. And he was also Fiona Cork's dad, also a Neighbours. Yes. After that, Bourne's main focus was the stage with roles in Fiddler on the Roof, Opposite Topol, Me and My Girl, They're Playing Our Song, Mac and Mabel, Anything Goes. He created the role of Morris in the Australian production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast and was highly acclaimed for his performance as Nicely Johnson in Guys and Dolls. Bourne's last stage performance was as Mr. Schumacher in Kevin Jacobson's production of Dirty Dancing in 2005. And he had the time of his life boogieing away in the show's finale at the age of 78. Now, in his retirement, he spent his time reading, going through old scripts, and being with his grandchildren. As he grew more frail, his body might have failed him, but his mind was sharp. Even in hospital, he was thinking of punchlines. When asked by a nurse if she could get him anything for the pain, he replied, yes, $10,000.
Yeah, that was pretty right. Well, firstly, I should explain the potato peeling skills comment. So Dad joined the Merchant Navy when he was a young man and thought it was going to be, you know, on the high seas and all terribly romantic. And he said he ended up actually just below deck pretty much 24 hours a day peeling potatoes. So it wasn't nearly the sort of romantic, fabulously exciting thing he thought it was going to be. I'm not sure Dad was actually in there playing our song, but I might be wrong about that. Neighbours, of course, was fantastic. I mean, it was funny for Dad, I think, because what we were talking about before with him being on Matlock Police and Cop Shop and playing all these roles on different TV shows. Once he got Prisoner, it sort of took him out of that realm of being, you know how many times you see a movie or a TV show and you go, oh, that's that person, but you don't really know who they are. But they're often the actors who get a hell of a lot of work and a lot of good work. Excuse me. And so it was sort of a bit of a double-edged sword after Prisoner, because he was a bit too recognisable to go back into being, you know, Mr. Jobbing actor. So the fact that he got Neighbours after that was terrific. But yeah, he, you know, I don't even know. Was he in Prisoner longer than he was in Neighbours? I think so.
Yeah. No,
the plane trees. I never had hay fever when I lived in London. And as soon as I moved back to Melbourne, I didn't realise that Melbourne is the hay fever capital of the world.
Sure. I think we all suffer hay fever. No, thank you for sharing that. Your dad is an absolute legend, and the Prisoner fans would just love to, you know, hear about him. So we really appreciate sharing.
And you know what Dad always did as well, you know, like because sometimes you get, you know, a fan letter asking for an autograph or, you know, this or that. Dad would write back pages and pages of to people, you know. Wow. And he really did have a very stellar career, and, you know, doing Beauty and the Beast with Hugh Jackman and Michael Cormick, who I believe was in Prisoner as well. Yes. And the gorgeous Robin Arthur. You know, I did Annie with Robin, then I did Les Mis with Robin, then I moved to London. She did Beauty and the Beast with Dad. Then when I did Boy from Oz with Todd McKenney for the production company, Robin was in that. So, you know, those lovely long connections with people are gorgeous. But yeah, the theatre side of things, Dad always did a mixture of everything. And it's funny because I did an episode of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries at the beginning of last year, and Greg Stone was playing my husband, and it had been a while, and I was in the makeup trailer. It had been a while since anyone sort of talked about Dad, and he went, "Oh, I worked with your dad," and I was like, "Oh, well, here it goes. If anyone worked with my dad, they pretty much know everything about me because he never shut up about it." So I used to say, when people say, you know, I work with your dad, I'm like, okay, so you know my life story, because I know he would have been saying, oh, you know, Sally did this yesterday and she's doing this, you know, so that's fair enough. And yeah, Greg had done Trelawney of the Wells with him at Sydney Opera House with Justine Clark and various other people. Wow. So he always did, you know, he was doing commercials and stage and TV, but that chunk, I think, of Prisoner and Neighbours were the big things.
Yeah. No, he was great. Michael Cormick, we actually had on a few months ago as well. Did
you?
Yeah, he's great.
I've known Michael for a long time. Gosh, have you got anyone left on your list?
Yeah, we've got a big list.
Plenty.
Well, there's a lot of people who are in it.
It was.
Hundreds.
Ken, sorry.
Can you tell us when you knew you wanted to be an actor and entertainer, and what did your parents think when you told them?
Do you know what? It's funny. I can't remember there being a specific moment. I remember I was about 11, and my dad's friend Orman Douglas, who was a singing teacher, his daughter, Christine Douglas, who's gorgeous, is a very well-known opera singer in Australia. They were over for dinner or something. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I was sure I'd muted my phone. How terribly rude. Stop. It's actually students asking me to help them learn how to sing. It's very kind of them. Mute. Excuse me. Where was I?
Parents. About...
Oh, yeah, there you go. Thanks. Yeah, so... we were all in the living room and I was just mucking around. I'd already said I wanted to have singing lessons, but I don't remember saying, you know, I want to be an actor. I mean, I think I was just taking the mickey out of Christine, and I was going around the living room going, you know, doing a bit of that. And they were like, oh gosh, you know, she's 11. And he said, oh, I don't usually teach people that young, but I'll give her lessons. And I think it was about 6 months after that, we went and saw a chorus line, which was on at Her Majesty's Theatre. And when you walk out of Her Majesty's Theatre, where there's all these the glass doors, usually above that there's all these billboards, you know, like coming soon and an ad for something or other. And there was a billboard with the Annie poster, which is, oh look, I'm going to just take you over here, viewers. This is my wall of shame. No, not shame. See that Annie poster? Oh, I should have reversed it. Anyway, you can get the gist. Yeah. But see, so there's and the poster. There's the little girl leaning over the eye. And so I said to Dad, I said, you know, what's that? And he said, oh, it's a musical about a little girl. And this sounds like such a fake showbiz story, but it's actually true. Please believe me. No, it actually is. It is. And apparently I said, "Oh, I'm going to be in that." Wow. And he was like, "Oh, are you?" And I said, "Yep, I'm going to be in that." And so Dad being the professional he was, went and bought the album and got the program sent over from America, and we sort of read up on it, about it and everything. And then I auditioned and, got through the first round, got through the second round, and then I got the role. So, excuse me, it was sort of, I do joke about it. I do always often say, "Oh, well, my parents forced me into it," but they didn't at all. But I don't think they really worried at all. I mean, Mum was a dancer. It was so funny when the day I got the role of Annie, we were asked to go into the office, and this woman walked out, the secretary walked out. She went, "Oh, so you're our Annie, are you?" And we were like, "What?" And then we went into the office. This is on a Monday, and they said, "Oh, you've got a press conference on Thursday, and you're singing on the Don Lane show Thursday night." John Lane show, and it was like 3 million people watched that show. I was 12, and I was okay. And you're not allowed to tell anybody because it's going to be a big press release and all that stuff. And so Mum and I got the tram home, sort of looking at each other, going, and she was so funny because she said, "Oh God, now I'm not going to be Ernie Bourne's wife. Now I'm going to be Sally Bourne's mother." And so that was the comment, basically. Excuse me. But yeah, they, Dad, I mean, ever practical. Dad was always, when you come out of stage door, if there's people waiting there to speak to you, you have to be polite, and even if you're exhausted, and being 12 and going to school and then doing a show and finishing at 10 o'clock at night, especially Annie, where you're actually on stage 90% of the time, if not more. About responsibilities of, it sounds silly, but just keep yourself nice and be responsible to your audience and tell the story and do your job, basically. And he'd always say, "Look, someone takes out the garbage, someone is a doctor, someone invents things, someone is a performer, it's your job." So that was a really good thing, because there might have been a couple of little stage mothery things going on in that cast, but mine definitely wasn't. I just got walked up the road by the stage manager to Tiki and John's theatre restaurant where Dad was working, and I'd sit on the little fold-out bed in his dressing room until he finished, and we'd go home together.
Oh wow!
Oh no, it's fabulous.
Actually, I did want to talk to you about Annie, so I'll do that now, just while we're on the discussion of Annie. So it was 1978 when you were 12. It was the most expensive musical production at the time. Is that right?
Yeah, cost a fortune, because there were two travelators on the stage, which sort of, so you could, and I think in terms of technology, that was massive at that time. And also the big number at the end of Act 1, which is NYC, actually had a huge, sort of replica of Times Square that flew in with. So yeah, it wasn't cheap.
And also working with Nancye Hayes was on Annie as well, who's also on Prisoner with a few roles.
Yep, Nancye Hayes, the beautiful, legendary, fabulous Nancye Hayes. So I did Annie with Nancye, and then my first musical as an adult, which was 9, which Maria Mercedes was in, and probably Carolyn Gilmer was in it, or lots of prisoner ladies, because there was 21 women and 1 guy. Nancye was in that, and then when I came back from London, she directed Boy from Oz, which is the one I just mentioned I did with Rob and Arthur. And then a couple of years ago, I did Brigadoon, the musical Brigadoon, with her. So we've had a 40-year collaborative sharing of roles and directorials. Yeah, she's fantastic. But I did work with some pretty great legends on Annie. It was a very good learning curve.
And the song that you sung on the Don Lane show was Tomorrow.
Yeah.
1 million people.
Yeah, and they did. I was so nervous on the Don Lane show. If you watch it back now, I mean, there's an ABC miniseries about, the ABC did a whole lot of series called Changes, and it was all about people who had massive changes in their lives. And so there was one about a woman who won the lottery, someone who had, they had their eyesight restored, and there was one about me, and there's all this footage of them following me backstage and at rehearsals and stuff. I can edit in a few clips for you if you like, but it might be copyright. It's really interesting, because I'm when I was on the Don Lane show, I was so nervous. I just do this the whole time when I'm being. He's like, "How are you enjoying it?" I'm like, "I'm good." I had no saliva in my mouth. I was so nervous. And then I sat on this little. They put me on these little wooden boxes. And at the end of the number, because it was this big announcement, they sort of left me. It was like the play out before the end of before they went to a commercial break. And so I'm standing there while they're doing the da 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 da, and the audience are clapping and clapping and clapping. And Mum said she was up in the box watching, and she was going, "Please don't curtsy, please don't curtsy, Sally, do not curtsy. Whatever you do, don't curtsy." And I did. She just thought that would have been a bit, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to train anywhere to learn your craft? Did you have to go to like an acting school, or obviously your dad would have taught you a lot, I'm assuming?
Sort of learned on the job, I think.
Okay.
So I did go to the National Theatre and do drama on Saturdays there when I was, I think, about 13 or 14. I don't remember doing any sort of dramatic training for Annie. I reckon Dad probably helped with my lines with that. Yeah, so I did that, and then I did sort of like random classes. Like I remember doing a workshop with Bud Tingwell, who's very, very famous, very fabulous Australian actor who was a great acting teacher. You know, like weekend workshops and stuff. But then we didn't really have like the sort of. I have a lot of students now who audition for BCA and NIDA and things like that, but it wasn't really a thing then. And then I did 9, then I did Les Mis, and then I moved to London. And when I moved to London, I did, you know, some acting classes and things, but not a sort of, you know, study thing, you know, like a formalized study, I guess is what I'm trying to say if I speak English properly. Turn the key.
Speaking of, well, not speaking of spare time, but tell me about your spare time. Do you have any hobbies, and what are they?
What spare time, Ken? Yes, I'm actually sitting at my piano as we speak. This is where I tinkle sometimes. This is where I teach. So bit of a I love I'm not competitive. Yes, I am really. So my son and I love a bit of ping pong, a bit of pool, going bowling, things like that. I wish I was sort of patient and calm enough to do something like knit or crochet, or, you know, I tend to be a bit, everyone, my children are constantly telling me to calm down. Love going for a long walk. Do like sitting on my balcony and looking at the world. I guess the only real hobby is I love my garden, you know, love my indoor plants, trying not to kill them, getting better at that. And I've got a little balcony with a beautiful sort of vertical wall garden and stuff. So yeah, so probably a bit of gardening and all that sort of stuff. But no, nothing sort of like, nothing that's going to be exciting for the fans. Like, oh, she's a racing car driver in her spare time. Oh yeah, that's what I do. I fly light aeroplanes.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't.
Now I know the last few years. Sorry,
I'm just trying to sound interesting.
Yeah, that sounds great. I like that. Now I know the last few years we've been in this awful pandemic, but you're currently working on a new show called Mrs. Prime Minister. Is that right?
Correct.
And you're playing Hazel Hawke.
I play Hazel Hawke and Tabby Fraser.
Right.
And so we did it at the Melbourne Cabaret Festival in July. We had just the luck of the fact that, like, literally we had a week where we were out of lockdown, and we got to do a couple of shows of it, written by the fabulous John Thorne, composed. I've done Spontaneous Broadway, which is an improvised musical theatre troupe, and he's played for a lot of my cabarets as well. And Terence O'Connell, who is a great Australian writer, and wrote I don't know if you remember Minefields and Miniskirts, which was all about these letters from women in the Vietnam War, which Deb Byrne was in it. Oh gosh, I'd have to look it up, but like all the, you know, all the top Australian. Who else was in it? Wendy. Brain's gone. Yeah, so it's sort of looking at the Australian Prime Minister's wives from, I think it's 1960 something to sort of, I think Anita Keating's the last one, and sort of monologues and songs, and it's not really political, even though it sort of is because they're the Prime Minister's wives, but it's just about, you know, the women behind the men, with some great songs. And of course, Jane Clifton is in it with me, who played Margo Gaffney for many years on Prisoner. And Fiona Thorne is also in it, and Anna Mitskis is our amazing musical director, and she also plays Anita Keating while she's playing this incredible score on the piano. So it's on at the Mimo Music Hall in St Kilda. I think it's 28th, 29th and 30th of Jan, but check that on the website. And look, you know, it is a bit rough at the moment, getting bums on seats with shows, because people don't feel super confident to go out. But the Mimo Music Hall actually has got a really, really high ceiling, and it's tables and chairs. So, you know, there is a lot of space.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah, and it's a really nice show.
We'll throw a link up on the Facebook page as well.
Thank you.
No stress.
If you actually have any spare time left, do you actually cook? And if so, what is your signature dish?
Oh my gosh. The answer to the question, do I cook, is yes. The answer to that question, if you speak to my children, is she tries. Yeah, look, I was never a great cook, but I think, you know, having kids, you sort of get better and better at it. I do a pretty reasonable spag bowl, and I've just started to since I bought my big cast iron Dutch oven, I've started to master the old risotto, which I do like a bit of. But yeah, look, I couldn't possibly sign my name to any dish, because that would be a terrible idea. Oh, no.
We're not going to be on Celebrity MasterChef or anything like that? Or?
No, oh my God. Oh my, that would be there. If there was like there was a spoof version of Celebrity MasterChef where you had to like do jam on toast and things. Or, you know, I could do a good fry up. I can do, you know, bacon and eggs. That's, you know, a bit of some mushrooms. Totally great. Maybe Celebrity Terrible Chef or something. I'll be chef.
Speaking of TV shows, what's your favorite go-to show that you like to watch in your spare time?
That's hard. I love so many different things. I do like a good documentary. I'm just watching Ricky Gervais's Afterlife season 3, which is so brutal and so funny and so brilliant and heartbreaking. And you know, I watched the first season in one day, and I just, you know, there's a difference when you're crying, sort of crying, but when it's just like tears are just streaming down your face, that's beautiful. And then I like the sort of naff, like sort of Sex and the City type of girly shows and stuff.
Have you watched the Reboot yet?
No, it doesn't sound like I'm going to enjoy it from what I've read. I think it's hard to go back to things like that many, many years later.
Yeah.
TV. I mean, I do, you know, because I did start watching Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries when it came on my radar, and it's great. I mean, I did like the first, you know, the 1920s one, but I love the 60s one. I think, you know, everybody in it is just Genevieve. Geraldine is just superb, and you know, they're all, so I think I love that, and I love that Australia can have the budget to, I mean, you know, it was thanks to Acorn TV, which is specifically produces you know, whodunits and murder mysteries and stuff, so they came on board to make that new season. But yeah, just gotta love. I do like those sort of 60s, 70s, like revisiting the old days.
Yeah.
You've also appeared in The Sullivans as Maggie in I Can Jump Puddles, Eva's maid in Evita, Katha in First Time Gangster, Sarah in The Divorce, Di Dougal in Newton's Law, and in 2021, Mavis Sparrow in Mrs. Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries. Can you tell us about your parts in all of those shows?
Oh, how long have you got?
Long enough.
Excellent. Yeah, so I Can Jump Puddles was obviously the very famous novel, and that was sort of straight after Annie. And there's some great, if you look it up on YouTube, there's a couple of really good scenes. All I can remember from that is we were filming in the stinking heat in central Victoria, and there was one scene where we were because Alan Marshall, he was was he a paraplegic, or I think he was a paraplegic, who was the subject of the novel. He was in his sort of, not a wheelchair, it was like a bed on wheels type of thing, and it was something, we were doing a scene where we're just coming home from school, and his cart had to tip over, and I was his girlfriend, and I think it said in the novel she was as strong as a bullock or something like that. And so I had to sort of hoik him up over my shoulder, and then I walked home because the trolley was broken. Well, we filmed that like 6 times, and I was carrying that boy up the hill every time. I remember that being a bit like, oh God, this is hard work. And it was boiling hot. I don't know how racy I can be on your show. Can I tell you?
If you like.
Okay, well, there was a scene where there was the tough boys, and Alan, because he was, physically not quite so able. This tough boy was like, oh, I know more than you. And he was like, no, I don't. He said, I can tell you how tall a horse is just by looking at him, something along those lines. And so we pulled up to a paddock, and we were being shot, and our point of view was this big black gelding. And the scene was basically, one of the tough boys saying, I think he's 18 hands. I don't know how tall a horse is. He's 18 hands like a giant. I can't remember. I don't know. Anyway, and, Alan was like, oh, no, he's not. He's 16 hands or something. But as we were shooting this shot, this horse's enormous penis came out. He started weeing, and it went on for about half an hour. And, of course, we're all children, and we were absolutely hysterical. And so they're like, come on, we've got to shoot this. And we're all like just laughing our heads off because this horse just weed forever. I remember that. And then they had to go, and then someone had to jump in and grab the horse and bring the horse over so, Alan could check him out or something. Maybe it wasn't about how tall he was. It was something. Anyway, but this big black horse, which was clearly never worked with children or animals, and same with me and Annie with the dog. Oh, I didn't tell you about the dog that used to scratch its balls while I was singing Tomorrow, did I? Oh. That was another one. And so children and animals, that was the second. And so this horse, we couldn't pull him over, and he was galloping away, and they ended up getting some old donkey in for the shot anyway. But yeah, so that's a couple of memories. Sorry to be a bit rude.
No, it's all good. As long as we don't have the RSPCA on our back, it'd be all good.
Oh, yeah, well, I've heard some stories about how they used to shoot Skippy in the old days, and that definitely wouldn't happen anymore.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, no, not really horrible abuse, but yeah, they used to. If the kangaroo had to be seen jumping over a fence, I think they used to give it a bit of a chuck it. But we live and learn, and we do better nowadays.
That we sure do. Now, you've worked with some amazing people, such as Julie Andrews and Judy Dench. What was it like working with people like that?
Oh, look, well, I did. Julie, so I did this thing called Hey Mr. Producer, which was the celebration of the musicals of Cabaret Macintosh. And I can remember the shows because they're all on the wall. So it was like Les Miserables, Miss Saigon, Threepenny Opera, Oliver, Phantom of the Opera, everything. And so we had an ensemble of 60 people, and those 60 people had all been in musicals, and then there were all the stars. So I remember one of my friends is an enormous Julie Andrews fan. Excuse me, happy to not be. We were all sitting in the auditorium waiting to do a bit of a tech during rehearsal. And I said, oh, there was a whisper that Julie Andrews was going to be in it. And we were sitting there, and I looked behind me, and I said to my friend, she's sitting behind you. And she went, ah! Like freaked out. It's like, Julie Andrews, it's Julie Andrews. And it was the most extraordinary thing, because on the first night's performance, because she doesn't sing anymore because they botched her throat surgery. But they did the My Fair Lady number, which was, I think they did the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain, all that. And at the end of the number, they had this, everything went silent. And then Julie off stage just went, I washed my face and hands before I come, I did. And then the orchestra went da 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 da, and I've never heard anything like it in my life. The audience screamed because no one knew she was doing it. So they literally, it was like people just went, whoa, because as soon as they heard her voice, they knew who she was. And then she just walked on stage, you know, as beautiful and regal as she is. Actually, look, I'm going to do another one now. So that's us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So she, so that was gorgeous. And she was so sweet, you know, and backstage she would be like, oh, do I look all right? You know, when she's in a dress. And I was like, you're Julie Andrews, you're gorgeous. And everyone wanted to have a photo taken with her. And I'm not very good with, I was brought up with famous people, you know, like Dad, we'd go to parties and it would be all the people you've seen on TV and all that. So I was never really like gobsmacked by, I mean, of course, Julie Andrews is different. But I wouldn't really go up to people and say, oh, can I have your autograph or can I chat to you and stuff? I'm more likely to go the opposite way. So everyone had been asking her for a photo. And, you know, as I said, there was about 150 people in this show, the orchestra and ensemble and all the leads. And it was just on the very last day. And I said, oh, look, I'm so sorry. I know everyone's been asking you, but would you mind awfully if I had a photo with you? And she was like, of course, darling. Let me just fix my hair. So she took my hand and we went into the little change room on the side of the stage. And I was about to do the Miss Saigon number. So that's why I look terrible with my red bandana on. I said, oh, this is I wish I was in something a bit more glamorous. She said, you look beautiful. And she was just so lovely. And then Judy Dench, oh gosh. We were all, you know, everyone was always mulling around while we're doing sort of technical rehearsals and sound checks. And she did Send in the Clowns in a rehearsal. And I did Jesus Christ Superstar at the Lyceum Theatre where it was on at. So I was very au fait with that building and I, you know, knew my way around. And I was standing in the auditorium leaning up against the wall. And I remember, you know, when something's so moving that you just get like a knot in your throat. Like you're not even crying, but you're just like, oh. And it's Judy Dench. It's Dame Judy Dench, you know. But then I had to go get my microphone on. And so I had to go through the pass door into the, you know, there's a big desk where they're swapping all the mics between people. And that happened just as she was coming off. And again, I don't really talk to famous people a lot, you know. I mean, I'll talk, actually, when you were talking about memories, let me go back to Evita after this little anecdote. And she came off, she was getting her mic off, and I just went, I had to say something. And I just went, can I just say that was just the most beautiful thing? And she was like, oh, do you think so? I thought it was a little bit. And I was like, no, don't put yourself down, Dame Judy. No, you are. I'm just going to mute and blow my nose because you don't need to hear that. Anyway, so that was amazing. And it's that funny thing when you meet your icons. You know, I grew up listening to Evita, listening to Elaine Page singing Evita, or, you know, doing Memory from Cats. Julie Andrews, of course. And there was Bernadette Peters, who a very, very famous Broadway star, was in it. Millicent Martin, who was famous for, I don't know if you've ever seen Grace and Frankie. She's the English woman in that. And she was Daphne's mum in Frasier. She's fabulous.
Oh, yes.
And there was one moment where Ruthie Henshaw, who is a very famous musical theatre performer, I did Les Mis with her, so I know her. And I was going up to the canteen to get a drink, and I was in the lift, and Ruthie said it was hysterical because, so I'm in the lift on my own. The lift doors opened, and as they opened, there on the couches was Julie Andrews talking to Elaine Page, while Ruthie Henshaw's talking to Bernadette Peters, while Leah Salonga's talking, and Ruthie said, I went, and just kept pressing the button until the door was shut again, because it was like seeing all my idols in the place I worked in a cafe going, oh, I can't cope, no, goodbye. And I just ran. But going back to Evita, so of course, you know, I'd never done a big feature film before, and I was doing Les Mis, and I got an audition for it, and it was I was taken into a room, probably, well, you can't see the size of this room, so it's not relevant, but like, you know, like 8 meters by 8 meters, like not a very big room, and it was a microphone, a monitor, an operator, and then Alan Parker. Now, I'd seen Fame when I was, I don't know, 15 or 16. And Alan Parker directed, obviously, Fame, The Commitments, all those movies. So that was another moment of going, I'm singing in front of Alan Parker. Anyway, so then I get a phone call. I get a phone call from my agent saying, look, you've been penciled to play Ava, Madonna's maid, for the film. So you're going to be going to Budapest and Argentina, and there's going to be a lot of filming in London. And I was just like, you know, 6 months work it was. And 2 weeks later, my agent rings me and says, oh, I'm afraid they've taken the pencil off, meaning they didn't want me. I was like, so gutted. It was like, why did you tell me that in the first place if I'm not going to do it? It was just awful. But then 6 months later, I got a call and they said, oh, they want you to go in and do a day on Evita. But I was doing Les Mis at that time, and there were no holiday days, but they knew how much I wanted to do it, so they let me do it. So there I am, being picked up in my little flat in Tottenham in this big gold limousine. It was gold, I don't know why. And being driven to the set, which was this huge English stately house, and there was my trailer, my own trailer. Who am I? I was like, I've got a trailer. My trailer. Next to that was Antonio Banderas's trailer, who was playing Shay. Wow. Then there was the makeup trailer, and then there was Alan Parker's trailer. And I'd been told how boring movies are, you know, really, like you sit around all day. Well, I sat in that trailer for 10 hours doing nothing. Wow. And then they finally called me to set, and it was like a bad dream. So I'm outside this, I mean, this was a mansion, it was a castle. And there were, if you can imagine, sort of like, you know, 12-foot high, you know, what are they called? Those sort of double doors, you know, the big, you know, massive doors. And they had, there was a table inside, and there was Madonna's stand-in. They were setting up the shots. And they went, and so this was after about 11 hours. They said, all right, call Madonna. And as they did that, the double doors shut, and the assistant director walked up to me and said, thank you, we won't be needing you today. Oh my gosh. I was like, somebody, if this, you know, this could be a very elaborate ruse. This is really unfair. And so I was only booked for that one day, and I thought, this is not meant to be. Sat on my bum for 12 hours, did nothing. And so got changed, left my trailer, and Alan Parker comes up to me and says, oh, I'm so sorry we didn't use you today. And I was like, you know who I am? Really? We might get you in for a couple more days. And so they actually did get me in for another day, which was the first scene I'm in the movie, which was where I'm putting her to bed when she's dying, and met Madonna, and we told her a dirty joke and we were fine. It comes back to my dad. Loosen people up with a bad gag. Apple doesn't fall very far. But yeah, and the funny thing is, in hindsight, like on my CV saying, you know, I did Evita with Madonna, especially in the UK, a lot more attention for the fact that I was in Prisoner. Really? Wow. Oh God. And what was it like to work with Madonna? I thought she was extreme. It was funny because after all that drama of me, you know, not being there on that day, when I did first walk into the set, so you're at Pinewood Studios, so this is like, it's like what you imagine in your mind, you know, there's the set over there and all the cameras, and there's all the director's chairs. And so I just jumped into a director's chair, and the second AD's walkie-talkie went, shh, get her out of Madonna's chair. I was like, I'm going to be sacked. I'm going to be sacked. That was funny. But yeah, look, I think she worked really hard on that. She was, we did do a scene which was her resigning from the vice presidency, which was all done on scaffolding in a studio to look like the interior of the, the famous balcony. Yeah. And they were doing a shot of just me and the maid, and they were doing shots of some other people. And she sang all of that live. She had a little earpiece in, and David Caddick, the musical director, was downstairs playing. And they'd say, you don't have to sing, you can go sit out, we're just doing the shot. And she was like, no, I want to do this. So yeah, she worked really hard. And I thought she did a really good job. I mean, she's not the most sort of accomplished musical theatre singer in the world. See how lovely I said that? Was very nice. But I think she did a great job. But yeah, everyone was always like, what's she like? And I was like, she's clearly an incredibly hardworking person. Otherwise, she would not have been where she was. I mean, I think she's maybe needs to calm down a little bit nowadays. But, that there's always that perception that no woman can be worth that many millions of dollars unless they are very savvy, work their asses off, and, and professional.
Definitely.
Dad used to always say, it's the people who are the best are the nicest. It's the people who are like a rundown or two that are the people who can be a pain in the bum. And when it's true, because doing especially Hey Mr. Producer, Julie Andrews and Judy Dench were the nicest people there. Yeah. They've got nothing to worry about. Nothing's threatening. You don't have to act like a diva and get attention when you're Julie Andrews and Judy Dench. It's great.
Or Sally.
I've just been talking for like 4 hours. Sorry, over to you.
Oh no, we love to listen. We're like therapists here. We just sit back and listen.
That's what I do a lot of the time in singing lessons. We have a lot of the chat.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. We're on Ken's question.
Sorry. We're coming back down to earth a little bit here now. We're getting back down to Prisoner cast members, and I know you've mentioned some, but can you think of any other people that you cast members that you worked with on TV and in theatre?
Oh gosh. Well, of course, I'm about to work with the lovely Jane Clifton again. And as I said, Maria Mercedes and Caroline Gilmer were both in Nine, the musical, with me. Colette Mann worked with Dad. Colette Mann was always around. I don't know if I've actually worked with, I think, because I've done a few charity concerts and things. And yeah, I mean, at Tiki and Anne Phelan obviously worked at Tiki and John's, and Betty Bobbitt worked at Tiki and John's, and I didn't really work with them, but they were sort of in, the showbiz family. Yeah, look, there's so many people. Michael Cormack, of course. I'd have to go through your list of 100 million people who have been in prison to know every single one of them. And of course, Lucinda Cowden, I did comedy with in London, who you talked to recently.
We did, and we want to talk about her shortly. And Maria Mercedes, who we had on a few months ago, who's currently in that new TV show, The Tourist, which is also
yeah. I saw Maria a little while ago. Maria's. Well, I think Maria was like Dad. She played a few roles on Prisoner as well, didn't she? She
had 2 roles. Yeah.
So funny how that happens.
I think everyone on Prisoner had 2 roles.
I didn't. I had 1. Yeah. Just the one.
Now you lived in the UK for, was it 13 years? What made you move to the UK? What was it like, and what did you do over there?
Okay, well, I did the musical Nine, which I was just talking about, and then after that I joined the cast change of the original Australian production of Les Miserables at Theatre Royal in Sydney, and then we came to Melbourne and opened the refurbished Princess Theatre. And when that finished, everyone was auditioning for Phantom of the Opera. And I was 24, I think. It's so funny. Can I just tell you a quick anecdote, though, that doesn't have anything to do with that? When I was 17, they were playing Tomorrow on the radio. Mum was in the kitchen and I was in my bedroom. And they said, apparently the announcer at the end said, "Oh, Sally Bourne," which was what I was known as then. "Oh, Sally Bourne, what a talent. Whatever happened to her?" And Mum ran into my bedroom and she was like, "Oh my God, you're 17 and you're a has-been. I was like, get out of my room. Get out. She teased me about that relentlessly. So that's why I just thought of that when I was 24. Oh, you know, was getting old. I'd been doing it for a while. And I just thought, you know, Dad was English. And so I had the advantage of having a British passport, which helps. I didn't have to leave after a couple of years. And now in hindsight, you know, I used to always say to people, I'm not a very brave person. I don't take a lot of risks, until one of my friends said what, except for moving 10,500 miles to another country. I was like, oh yeah. So I just thought, I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, the majority of my ideals of my career were about musical theatre. And of course, you know, the pool in London is ridiculous compared to, you know, the pool in Australia. I'm so sorry. I'm suffering terribly.
That's okay.
It'll have to stop eventually. Do you know what it is? It's because I've got the air conditioner on. But otherwise I sweat. And I think the glow is more important than the blow. I just made that up. That's ridiculous. Please edit that out. That sounds so silly. Yeah, so I just decided to go there. And I had a few friends there. My best friend, Alison Jaya, who I did 9 with, who I ended up doing my last show with, Jerry Springer, the opera. My darling friend, Martin Croft, who lives down the road now, he was doing Miss Saigon there, so I had somewhere to stay. My uncle and auntie were there. And so I got on the plane, packed everything up. We cried like babies at the airport. It was, you know, Dad just was buckets. And then I moved there, and yeah, 9 months after I got there, I did an open call, meaning I got there at 7 a.m. and I think I was seen at 4 for My Fair Lady. Wow. Meaning I didn't have an agent, so I couldn't get an appointment. I just had to, you know, queue up with your number on your chest, you know, number 755. And that was, the director was Simon Callow, who very famous, of course, for 4 Weddings and a Funeral, playing the old Scottish guy. And I got the job. So that was nice. And then I toured, that was a tour around Britain. And then after that, I got another job and another job, blah, 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 and off we went. But yeah, pretty much all musical theatre until, well, we'll talk about Lucinda, until I started doing other stuff. But yeah, look, it was an amazing time. It was moving there. I sort of thought I'd lived there for about 5 years. But once I was there, you know, once I was 30, I was just established and I had connections. And so I actually didn't move back until I got pregnant when I was 38, because I sort of knew I wanted my family around me and I wanted to be home to have my kids. But yeah, so it just kept going, and I, you know, I had a really lovely time, and I had a really nice career and some amazing experiences, you know, i.e. Judy Dench and Julie Andrews.
Can I just ask about Jerry Springer? And please don't hate me. I never knew there was a musical about Jerry Springer. I'm a massive fan of Jerry Springer. What was the musical about? Okay,
so Richard Thomas and Stuart Lee, who's a stand-up comedian, Richard wrote Smoley Opera. They were having a discussion about, I hope this is correct, my memory of it. They were having a discussion about, you know, when you look at the plots of operas, they are absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
Like outrageous. Like so-and-so's brothers killed the horse's wife's dog. You know, like it's so over the top. And there's Valkyries and oh, excuse me, just gonna get comfy. There's demons and, you know, like it's just ridiculous. And so they were talking about, you know, what's the equivalent of that sort of outrageous stuff these days. And I don't know which one of them mentioned it, but I think it probably was Stuart, said, you know, Jerry Springer. Like, because you actually can't believe these stories.
I know.
And so basically Act 1 was 3 main storylines. The first storyline was Chick with a Dick, which was a song, it was very, very, very rude. And the Royal National Theatre subscribers were, often you just watch people in the show. It was very, very clever. And so the first one was about, you know, a guy comes on, accuses a couple, she accuses him of having an affair, he's having an affair with the best friend, and then there's someone else, and then that's Andrew Bevis, who's Australian, who was doing Chick with a Dick. So that was like the 4 of them. Then then there were adverts. Then the second story was my storyline with Wills Morgan, who played my husband. and he came on the show to tell me that he likes to wear nappies. So he had a song where in the middle of his song he rips off his suit, and he's in a mass, and he's a big, rather large man of colour who wore this massive nappy. And so I had some, I think one of my first lines was, I'll try and beep out the swearing. What the? And then after that humiliation, he also tells me he's been seeing a girl called Baby Jane, who comes on and sings, "This is my Jerry Springer moment. Dip me in chocolate and throw me to the lesbians. I don't want to die." It's all very over the top. And then there were more ads. And then the third story was about a redneck guy and his wife who wants to be a pole dancer. And that was my darling friend, Alison Jaya, who I did 9 with when I was 20. I'm now 38, and we're sharing a dressing room just before I moved home, which was gorgeous. And so she does that, and then it goes all horribly wrong. So rednecks are racist, and he wants to kill the Ku Klux. There's a whole Ku Klux Klan tap dancing number, and he accidentally shoots Jerry. And so Act 2 is Jerry in hell with Jesus and Satan trying to fight for his soul, and all the characters come on in sort of as angels and things. And it's yeah. So it's pretty outrageous. I mean, that's probably the worst synopsis ever, because it makes it sound very confusing, but it was extremely brave. It was wonderful. Every celebrity, like every night, I used to have a little list of who came to see it, you know, because it was the hottest ticket in town. And yeah, it was really terrific. And at the end, I've got so many pictures I can show you. At
Was
the end,
Jerry involved in it or behind the scenes with it?
No, he wasn't. Excuse me. He wasn't involved in it, but that was funny. He came to opening night.
Oh, wow.
And opening nights are just, you know, you're just trying to get ready for the party. Yeah. And the party was huge. I think it was there were 2 levels for the party. One was heaven, one was hell. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And me and Alison were trying to get ready after the show. So the show's finished and everyone's fuffing around. And we're like, we're really, you know, you've had to have a shower. You've had to make your hair in, you know, pin curls, and you've got to go to the party and people are going to take your photos. So you're trying to get ready. And people kept knocking on our door and going, "Oh, have you got some mascara?" And it's like, "No, leave us alone." And then there's this, you know, "What?" And it was Jerry Springer. I was like, "Oh, hi." But the interesting thing about those 3 stories that I was just talking to you about that were in the first act is they were all 100% episodes of the Jerry Springer show.
Yeah.
They weren't made up. And so that was the point of it. But it was very clever about society and how we treat each other. And it was a fantastic show. And, you know, I while I was doing it, I got pregnant, and then that buggered off back to Australia.
What was Jerry like? He seemed so nice.
Yeah, look, I don't really know. I mean, I think he just said thank you, congratulations, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
Yeah, look, I mean, being in the UK with Prisoner. Oh God, I didn't tell you that story. So when I did My Fair Lady, which I told you toured around the country, we got to Birmingham. Now I'm in the ensemble. This is my first job in London, in the UK. I quite liked moving there and being anonymous because, you know, when I was here, I was known as Sally Bourne or Annie or Prisoner, you know. And so being in the UK, it was a bit like, you know, going from being a big fish to a small fish in a big pond, you know, which was one of the reasons I moved there. So we get to Birmingham and I get a phone call from the Prisoner fan club, and they said, "Oh, we're having a do this evening. We've got Anne Phelan, I think Maggie Kirkpatrick, can't remember who else. Do you want to come? And we've seen you in town. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, but I'm doing a show, so I won't get there till, you know, 10:30, 11. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. And so I, totally naive, I said to a couple of girls in the show, "Do you want to go and, you know, get a couple of free drinks, just go to this party?" And they were like, yeah, that'd be good. So we arrive at this venue and I'm just at the bar getting drinks, you know, and I turned around and I was surrounded in a semicircle of Prisoner fans looking at me like that. It was like, and my friends had abandoned me. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I found Anne Phelan. And same thing, we were having a hug, and then I didn't realise how big the fandom was there. Didn't realise at all. But we had a terrific night, and then the next day I went to go and do the show, and I was walking up with a friend of mine, and they were like, "Oh, there's lots of fans out the stage door." And so Edward Fox, who played Henry Higgins, he was the lead. He was famous for being, the Day of the Jackal and big movie star. He walked up and they totally ignored him. And I think he was expecting to put some, some autographs. Walked in, and I got they were at the stage door every day.
Wow.
And the cast were hysterical. They'd be like, I was signing autographs. They'd like barricade the stage door so I couldn't get in and stuff. And I had no idea of. And I remember actually when I did Jesus Christ Superstar as well, talking to one of the ushers. And yeah, he was like, "You were in Prisoner." And I just didn't know how massive it was there, And so that was a wake-up call going to that gig.
Wow. Amazing story.
Got mobbed. I was only in the ensemble. My lipstick on.
Performing on the Cabaret Circus in London, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I met a lovely guy, James, who did what sort of supper things for people who'd gone to see a West End show. So if you went to see, Les Mis, then they could book a table. I think the first venue we had was in Leicester Square. You could book a table and you get a supper, glass of wine, and there'd be a cabaret with a West End performer. So I started doing that, and I think it was like an hour show. So I did that for a while. Excuse me. Got to stop at some point. Oh, my nose is super red. Yeah, so I did that for years, basically. And then there was sort of random gigs, someone would book you for, there's a party at the Dorchester, they want 4 West End singers to do 20 minutes or whatever. So, I also toured, there was a thing, sort of West End Wendy's concert thing, that there was about 10 of us who do it, and they'd just do random gigs. So, yeah, my own cabaret shows I really enjoyed. And sort of, that thing of not having the fourth wall that you have on stage, being able to talk to the audience. And it was funny because there was one gig I had once, I think it was a terrible night. It was like a Tuesday night. And there was only like six people in the audience. There was like 3 couples. And it was one of the best nights I'd ever had, because we were just chatting and I was singing songs, and that's fabulous thing of, it doesn't matter how many people are there, those people who were there are really important. Another good Ernie Bourneism in terms of your work ethic and stuff. It's, yeah. So I loved doing cabaret. And when I moved back here, I wrote more specific shows because I started composing my own songs and stuff.
Amazing. Now Ken and I developed an idea called Talking Prisoner Presents, which is talking to cast members from various other TV shows like Neighbours and Home and Away and all the classics. But it turned out the guest that we did bring on to Talking Prisoner Presents was actually on Prisoner, which was Lucinda Cowden, who was brilliant. We spoke to her last week. Fun interview and amazing. But we also found out that you two did stand-up comedy together.
We did. So when I was in London, a wonderful woman called Lucy Skilbeck sort of started a little Australian company, and did plays. Well, the first play was at the King's Head in Islington, and then we did lots of plays at the Australian Consulate, actually. And I met Lucinda Cowden, and it was just fireworks, when you meet someone and you're like, yeah, you're going to be my best friend forever. We were very, very naughty and very rude together very quickly. So we did that play. And then we sort of just thought, what about trying some stand-up? Or, so we spent a lot of time writing stuff together. We got a residency at a club called Madame Jojo's in Soho, where we were hosting. We did a quiz, hosted a quiz night. We did, gigs around the place. And our first gig, the great thing about that really for me was that, I'd always been able to sing. So I didn't ever really risk things, and doing stand-up, I wasn't that good at it, and she was much braver than me. She'd done lots more like improv work on stage and stuff, whereas and so it was lovely to have a partner to do it with, and also to do something which I sort of had to really learn, because I'd been singing since I was 12, and not that I sort of rested on my laurels, but stand-up was a very different entity. Yeah. And and her partner and my partner at the time, the four of us, we were thick as thieves. And then she moved back. She moved back for a little bit. I moved back for a little bit. I know we both visited for a bit. And then I moved back, and then a few years later she moved back permanently. And I just spoke to her last week. She's ridiculously talented and divinely lovely, and has been one of my dearest friends for about 25 years. So we've both done a bit of Neighbours, both done a bit of Prisoner.
She was great. She had so many stories for us, and it was just such a fun interview. And we put a little clip of her up on our Facebook page from her first episode of Neighbours in '85, and it's had I think it was over 17,000 views so far. Just from that clip, and the laugh, we heard the laugh for the first time. And
that used to drive me mad. I think I've got a bit of dad trauma when I was friends with Lucinda in London, because I said when I went out with Dad, I could never, like, he'd end up talking to people for 5 hours. We'd go out for a night, girly night, and after the 14th person's gone, do the laugh. I'm like, bugger off. We're trying to have a drink and have fun, I was sort of a bit of a bodyguard.
You're suffering a bit of PTSD from the laugh.
From Dad. It's like, don't leave us alone. No, but it's so funny because Lucinda obviously, but I did realise when doing Evita, there was one moment where there were a lot of extras, and the way these people look at Madonna, were looking at her and talking to her, like, you think, oh, I couldn't do that all the time. You think about those Hollywood stars, don't you? And people who they can't. You don't want to be rude to someone, but surely at one point you want to sit and have your meal at a restaurant without someone coming up. And I'm not being rude, because it's exactly what I was saying about Dad saying, when you leave the theatre, be present and stuff. But I can imagine there's some really private moments where you might not, and you do see the celebs doing the no pictures.
Funny.
Lucinda's absolutely marvelous and brilliant, and I must go and visit her very soon.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of actually writing your own cabaret shows?
Yeah, look, when I wrote my first sort of real solo cabaret show, the Sally Bourne Identity. Was it Kidding Around? I think it was Kidding Around. So my best friend, Dean Lotherington, one of my best friends, Dean Lotherington, I keep saying my best friend to everybody, but, my mum used to always say, they're my second best friend. And you'd say, who's your best friend? She'd say, me. I'm like, all right. So my friend Dean, we did Jesus Christ Superstar together at high school. I was at McGraw, he was at Melbourne High. And then we did gigs, piano bar gigs together, and we also moved out of home together. And then 3 years later, we were playing husband and wife in the professional production of Les Mis. Get that. So we'd known each other for a long time. And when I moved back, after I had Alice, so I was 40 odd. I was doing a cabaret show, and I was saying, oh no, actually it was a Sally Bourne Identity. I was like, I haven't really got an opening song. I don't really know I can't find an opening song. And he said, well, write one. And I was like, what? He said, write one. And I always love the expression, don't you know who I think I am? Because it's that sort of play on the, don't you know who I am? And so he's a brilliant musician. So I wrote this song, and it was like, don't you know who I think I am? In my head, I'm still young and cute. Don't you know who I think I am? I still look good in my birthday suit, but there's reality. Sometimes when I sneeze, oh, it's a bit of gravity. That's my identity. And it's like, am I the mother from creation? Am I the girl from the West End? And it was all about, like a year ago I was singing in the West End, and now I'm, who am I? It was all that. And so I wrote that, and then he said, well, write another one. And then every week he'd go, write another one. Well, write another one. And so I wrote songs about, you know, being a mum, I wrote songs about, it was, and then writing the stand-up in between. And so I did that. I did a couple of shows. I did that at the Adelaide Cabaret Festival. I did a song called Child Star, which was all like, child star, famous before you're 17, you know, and middle age, you're an old has-been. And at the end of Child Star was, I talked a lot about, you know, like child stars, like the Olsen twins and the kid from Different Strokes, and you know, and what happens with all of them. And the end was, and then one day someone might say, gosh, it's uncanny, but you look a lot like a geriatric orphan Annie. And I did this whole, yes, I was a child star, but I'm not bitter, you know. So it was all that. So yeah, so did that, and then got stalked by Susan Ann Walker, and that was a whole new cabaret experience.
That was my next question. What was it like? How did all that start? The partnership with her?
Well, excuse me, and she'll freely admit this. I was doing a little warm-up version of the Sally Bourne identity before we went to Adelaide, just to sort of, you know, practice my stuff, and she was there, and we'd known of each other, but we are part, and this was the same with Lucinda, actually. When I worked with Lucinda, you know, she worked with my dad. We'd had the same agent in Melbourne. We went to the same drama school. We'd never met. It was very odd. Like we both moved in exactly the same circles. Same with me and Susan Ann, even though I'd been in London for 13 years. And I'd always known of her, but people always presumed that we'd been friends for years. And after the show, she just said, I just want to do what you're doing. You know, I have never done that. And so we started playing around with, it was called Yummy at that point. And we started, she wrote an opening and I wrote a song, and then we wrote a few things together, and then we, you know, edited it and blah, blah, blah. And we did really well. We bounced off each other really well. There's a few clips, I think. Oh, there might be a few clips on my website. Or there
Which
might
is
be,
the address is sallybourne.com.au. Yes.
No, AU, just
No
Sally.
AU, so .com. Yes, for the fans.
Yeah, except because I haven't changed my thingy code, now when I type it in, it's not coming up properly, but it has to be there somewhere. Or you can look at my singing lessons, look at Sally Bourne singing lessons, and then you'll find your way into it. I don't understand what I've done wrong, but somehow it's gone off the top page, you know, whatever. Anyway, so we wrote 3 shows, and we did the Butterfly Club. We did the inaugural Melbourne Cabaret Festival. We headlined that alongside Eddie Perfect and various people. We did a couple of gigs in Sydney. We did the Fringe Festival. We got nominated for Green Room Award for Best Original Songs in Cabaret. And it was really, really fun. She's now in Sydney doing The Wedding Singer, musical.
Wow.
Yeah. But I just did a couple of Christmas concerts with her, obviously just before Christmas.
Fantastic.
You've had an amazing theatre career spanning about 40 years or over 40 years. And if I can just mention some of the shows you've been in, Brigadoon Company, Moonshadow, The Boy from Oz, Once We Lived Here, Shane Warne the Musical, Damn Yankees, Hey Mr. Producer, Jesus Christ Superstar, Les Mis, My Fair Lady, and many more. Can you tell us about these and your memories of working on these productions?
Oh, that's a big list.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've talked a little bit about My Fair Lady and Jerry Springer and those things. So maybe I'll concentrate on the Australian ones, which was the top of your list. So Brigadoon, so the production company, for those who don't know, that is no longer operates, but the production company every year in Melbourne would put on 3 musicals for its season at the State Theatre in Melbourne. And I did Brigadoon with them. I did The Boy from Oz with them, which was directed by Nancye Hayes. And I also did Damn Yankees, which was directed by Terence O'Connell, who has written Hey Mrs. Prime Minister, which I'm doing in a couple of weeks. Okay. So Damn Yankees was an interesting one because the lovely Anne Wood, who played one of the lead females, she had food poisoning after opening night. So I had to go on stage in front of 2,000 people with a script in my hand in a role I didn't know. That was
Wow.
an interesting experience. I was there. I was in front of Orchestra Victoria. I was on one side of the stage. David Whitney was on the other. And, you know, the State Theatre's rather large curtain. The big curtain went out and I could see the 2,000 people. And I was there with a sewing basket with dialogue in it going, I don't know what I'm about to do, but this is like an actor's worst nightmare. I was in the show, but we'd only had a week's rehearsal. I didn't cover the role. So that was one of those, you know, performers often talk about having dreams of going on stage naked and not knowing what they're doing. Apart from being naked, not being naked, I wasn't naked. Apart from being naked, that was pretty terrifying. It was one of those things where you go, oh, I actually saw Into the Woods last night. That Watch This are doing at the meat market. It's the same company that I did the show Company with, which was fabulous. And a boy called Sam Scunthorpe, who didn't cover the role of Jack. The boy who had Jack has got COVID and he's off for a couple of days. This boy did exactly that. He went on last night for the role of Jack in Into the Woods, which is a massive role. And he found, what day is it today? Sunday. He found out on Wednesday.
Wow.
And he was amazing. And I was telling him that story last night. I said, you'll never, ever be scared of anything ever again, because it's like that fear barrier, isn't it? Where you go, oh, okay. So Shane Warne, the musical, was fun. That was Eddie Perfect, who had huge success now with King Kong and Beetlejuice, which he wrote, obviously. And obviously he was in Offspring as an actor and all that sort of stuff. So that was fun, you know. All those, because I've done Shane Warne, you know, Jerry Springer, all that. And that was it. Yeah, so that was at the Athenaeum, which was awesome. Then what else did you mention? Well, look at me posters. What have I forgotten?
Wall of Fame.
Which one?
The Wall of Fame.
My Wall of Fame.
Love it.
Well, it's just, you know, it's got to publicise something somehow. I do like it's a rather large gate.
Yeah, it's huge.
What else? Moonshadow. Well, Moonshadow was the music of Cat Stevens. And that was at the Princess Theatre with, Robert Grubb played my husband, and I actually Robert Grubb played my husband in Shane Warne the musical as well. So, and I think Robert Grubb played my husband in another thing we did. Anyway, we get on quite well. So Moonshadow was obviously, you know, all those fabulous songs. Great cast. And I got to sing, you know, the best song of the night, I think. You know, oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world.
Yeah.
You know, so that was nice. And that was good to be. It's funny because, you know, I've been in a lot of shows where we used to sort of call it sometimes a bit McDonald's theatre because, you know, the cheeseburger's the same everywhere in the world. So it's nice to do an original piece because no one else has played your role before. So you sort of invent it. So that's what happened with me with Jerry Springer and with Shane Warne and with Moonshadow. Although, having said that, the production company shows, The Boy from Oz, Damn Yankees and Brigadoon, they weren't, you know, the American versions. They were completely originally designed and directed and costumed by the production, by the production companies who they employed. So they were new versions of old shows. So that was always fun.
Fantastic. Now, we did cover Annie, which was my next question. So we'll move over to Ken's next question about Neighbours.
You played Carol Crane in Neighbours. You appeared in several episodes of Neighbours as head of nursing, Carol Crane, in 2013. How did you get the part of Carol, and did you have to audition?
Oh, yeah. Ran out to Channel 10, did the lines, got the job. Yeah, no, I did have to audition. And yeah, look, it was really odd being back at those studios, you know, because fabulous memory, actually. I remember when I did Prisoner, Dad, I think we must have both been working late one night, and Dad, I was on my L's. Dad went to give me a driving lesson in the prison car park. And I think it lasted for about 35 seconds before he went, no, no, I'm paying for lessons. No, just didn't have the patience. Yeah, so it was interesting being back there, and especially, you know, it's funny because it happened a while ago when I had to pick up something like walking down well, it's closed now, of course, but at the ABC, I had to go for a costume fitting. The ABC is just down the road. That's why I'm pointing that way. When I did, I think it was at Newton's Law. Yeah, I think it was Newton's Law. And like, because Dad was always at the ABC doing Adventure Island and things, and walking down the corridors around the corridors of the ABC when I hadn't been there since I was probably about 10. That was weird. So it was good. Neighbours, I mean, you know, it's such a fast turnover, and they're so slick. And I mean, I think most of my scenes were just in an office. So, but I worked with Ryan, who Luce is now having a romance with, Jody, and Saskia Hempel, is it? I think.
Yes.
I can't remember the character's name.
And Alan Fletcher, the Dr. Carl.
Fletcher, of course. Yeah, I had a scene with him in the cafe, and that's funny. That's always funny too, isn't it? When like you see something on TV. So, and I remember this with the Sullivans and with Prisoner, because you know when I did Prisoner, we were mostly in Myra's house, so it wasn't something I'd seen on TV. So when like same with the Sullivans, I remember walking on the set of the Sullivans and walking past. You know, what were the Sullivans' like living room? I think it was the living room. The kitchen were really famous, and you sort of go, "Oh, this is just." And of course, you know it's a box. Of course, you know it's a TV show, but it's always very odd. And that was the same with Prisoner. I think, you know, walking past the rec room and going, "Oh, this feels really strange." So Neighbours was really fun, and it was funny because the first year I did it. The episode ended with, and I'll send you some clip stuff if you want me to. I'll email you some stuff. The episode ended with, I think the first one was it was to do with drugs were found in a bag or something, and the episode ended with me saying, I understand that, Georgia. Oh, Georgia, that's her name. Yeah. Now I remember. I understand that, Georgia, but I'm afraid I have no choice but to suspend you until further notice, or something along those lines. And then I wasn't in it for another year. And then I came back in when it wasn't drugs, it was something else.
Oh, I think she stole medical records or something.
Oh, no, the drugs were the second time. The first time was leaking the fact that this mining magnate was there. Yeah. And so the second time I came in, I said pretty much the same thing at the end of the episode. I understand that, Georgia, but I am afraid I have no choice but to suspend you until further notice. And Saskia was like, didn't you say that last time? I said, look, I'm very old. I can only learn one piece of dialogue, which I will repeat for the rest of my life. Don't ask too much of me. We had a bit of a laugh about that.
Oh, that's funny. Now, the fans will be dying for us to get into Prisoner, so we'll just move to the Prisoner questions, if that's okay. One of the biggest shows on TV. Now, you appeared in 16 episodes between 430 and 556. Do you remember how you got the part for Kay Desmond?
I auditioned.
Oh, you auditioned. Okay.
I auditioned. I can't remember where. All I can remember is that it took a long time for me to be cast. So, like usually you hear back in a couple of weeks or something. I think it was about 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And so I put it out of my mind. I mean, I don't know, maybe they'd offered it to somebody else, or maybe they were not sure, or maybe they weren't in a hurry. I don't know, maybe they had plenty of time. But yeah, so it was a couple of months. So yeah, it was a real shock when I got it, because I thought it was done.
Yeah.
Very excited though. Yeah. And I have to say, I was in year 11, and I wasn't, as I spoke before, I was, you know, how much of an incredible academic I am. Stop. And I got the part, and basically it was, I think it was a 6-month contract, and I think it was 1 day a week, and it was for an amount of money that in 1980, what year was it? I don't know. Was it 1988 or 7 or 8 or something like that?
I think.
Yeah, when it was, you know, it was at that time. a lot of money. And my
the
mum
equivalent
was
to $100,000 these days, it probably was.
Oh God, well, probably. I mean, I think it was like $500 a week, to be honest with you. I don't care who knows that. But I was 17, so that's still a bloody good amount of money, you know. And I remember sitting down with Mum, you know, who was always the practical one. She said, "Okay, well, do you want to do year 12, or would you like to go and star in an Australian TV series and earn $500 a week?" And I went, "Oh, let me think about that for about." Bye, school. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
You'd have to be stupid, wouldn't you? And then going to see the headmistress at McGraw, because of course McGraw Girls High is a very academic and intellectual school, and very much promotes, you know, the intellect of the ladies. And the headmistress was very, "Oh, that's a bad idea. You know, you definitely need something to fall back on, because you won't work your whole life, you know, in showbiz."
Hello.
We'll make sure she watches this. Yeah?
With us anymore, but yes, you know, and that's it's an awful thing though too, because, you know, I teach a lot of people singing and do drama works and stuff, and I have had parents and people say, you know, "Do you think she's, you know, do you think my daughter's got what it takes?" Or, you know, and it's just impossible to know. I feel like, you know, I'm a product of the old showbiz family, and I've always worked because it's been a job and all that. But it is harder, I think, now for there's so many drama schools, and there's so many people graduating, and so many people auditioning for musicals and things. I think I lived in a golden age. Oh, I've got another lovely photo to show you. Do you want to see more pickies?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, so this is my mother and father when they met.
Oh, wow.
In a musical called. Oh no, they met in a musical called A Desert Song, but this is them in Showboat at the Palais Theatre.
Wow.
Theatrical. I know, right?
That's where they met, was the Palais, wasn't it?
Yeah. As I always say to people, there was no chance of me being a brain surgeon. But, you know, so Prisoner. It was really great, but the Neighbours thing was hysterical. Anyway, next, sorry. I digress.
Yeah, over to Ken.
Had you actually watched Prisoner before you got the role?
Yeah, I had. But remember with Prisoner, like it changed quite a lot in terms of when the time slot was. So I think probably because I think memory, if it was after 8:30 or whatever, then they could have the really heavy stuff. But a couple of times I remember it changed. Yeah, I did watch it. I loved it. It was a great show.
Yeah.
And it was really bright, you know, it was really brave, and it was really gritty, and it was, you know, it wasn't trying to be Dynasty, and it wasn't trying to be Cop Shops or all things, you know, it was just a shed load of really good female actors. And, you know, we know that there was only one corridor that they just keep walking down, and we know that the rec room was the dining room, and the dining room was the library, you know, all that stuff. But, you know, I thought it was great.
Yeah. Ken's got a lot of amazing memories from the show.
Yes. How long were you on it for, Ken?
From the day one to the day end.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
He served his full sentence.
You did. They didn't let you out on parole even for a couple of months.
No, they used to let me out on a Thursday night to go home, eat food, go to sleep, and go back.
How terribly rude of them. That's fantastic. So you know everybody.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a blur.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a long time ago, and I guess, I mean, I've done a lot of TV in the last sort of 10 years, but mostly it's like guest spots. So like, you know, do a couple of days or a week, but to work on something like for years and years and years and years, that'd be, yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Look at Ray Maher on Home and Away. I mean, he's just been on it since day one.
Has he? Yeah. Long time.
Now, when you got the part for Kay, did you know what the storylines were going to be about? Did you, when you auditioned, did they tell you what the character was about? Or
I think I knew that I was sort of the reason. I was sort of the foil for someone who was going into prison.
Yep.
You know, I was sort of the foil for, oh, excuse me, I can't get comfortable. Look at me. Keep turning the key. Yeah, I think I knew that I was, I was there to be the reason why my mother went into jail.
Yep.
Anne Phelan, Vince D'Amico and Peter Craig played your on-screen family. How did you get on with them off-screen?
Oh, look, I mean, I knew Annie because she worked with Dad in Theatre Restaurant. Vince and Peter, I didn't really know them that well. And I don't think I did as much with them because I did the whole drug thing was just Alan Hopgood and Annie and me. So my memories of, I mean, I got on well with Peter, but I didn't do that many scenes, I don't think, with Vince. But yeah, look, Anne was just absolutely, one of the most divine, fabulous, funny, ridiculous, outrageous, brilliant, gorgeous people on the planet.
Yeah, she was great.
She liked a beer.
She what?
She liked a beer.
She did like a beer. She liked a beer very much. Do you remember if she fluffed her lines on screen, what she used to do?
No, I can't remember.
It involved a camera and her lifting her top up quite often.
Well, never. I can't recall ever that happening, but it doesn't surprise me.
Because I remember my dad telling me once when, you know, like sometimes, you know, when there's a really fast turnaround, if you bugger up your lines and you keep going, they might use it. So he good fatherly advice, tell me to look at the camera and swear, because you want to get another take. But yeah, I remember Anne doing that a bit. Yeah, look, I mean, she was just divine. Very sad that she's no longer with us.
That was actually my next question, your memories of working with Anne. So we'll move over.
I've got some more.
You got some more?
Yeah.
Ken's actually got an amazing story about Anne with her final scene when she was with the terrorist siege. Did you hear that one?
Oh, tell me.
Oh, she they made her comfortable on the floor because she had to be the dead body. So they got her comfy with some rugs and things on the hard floor, and then they outfitted her with an ashtray, a fag, and a VB. And every now and then, when they'd say, you know, oh, we've got to cut to the body again, she'd drop, you know, put them aside and lie down and be dead.
The old days when you'd be smoking on set as well. That's so funny. That's so funny. There's a great, if you look at the first episode of when she comes to get me from the drug den, it still makes me laugh to this day. So I walk out of the house and she's standing there outside the car, and I'm all, you know, got my 3 hours of drug makeup on, and I'm like, Mom, and I walk to her, but we had to hit a specific mark, and all you can see is her pulling me like this. Like, it's really obvious because I hug her and then she just like drags me to the mark. That's how much of a pro she is. But watch, you know, for any of the fans who are know their episodes that much, watch that scene. You'll see her pulling me that way.
Oh, they'll find it definitely.
I think we've covered the next question. So
yes. Now, did you have a favourite writer or director on Prisoner that you know of? You probably, maybe you don't.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think at that age. And I wish I could remember, but no, I'm afraid not. Which is very rude. And apologies to any writers or directors I worked with for not name checking you.
Apart from Anne Phelan, did you enjoy doing scenes with anybody else?
Oh, well, I mean, Alan Hopgood, like, God, he was great. I mean, there were some of those cold turkey scenes were involved. We were, I think it was Kangaroo Flats or something, like, and it was just post bad bushfire, and it was absolutely boiling. And that house where we shot, I remember that bedroom where, you know, she slaps the hell out of my face. I can still feel that because she actually did. Being this tiny bedroom, and you know, so you could literally like barely fit the cameraman in and the director.
Oh, so
And
it's actually shot inside the house.
yeah, it was shot inside that house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we were on location, and so that made it. I think that makes it more of a memory for me than, because when you go, when you go into studio and it's like, you're shooting a couple of scenes and then you wait, you've got lunch for an hour, and then you're shooting a couple of scenes and you're off chatting, and then you go home and someone, whereas on location it was just all of us all of the time. So it was a bit more focused in that respect. But yeah, I mean, Annie and Alan were both just fantastic. Yeah.
Alan's great. We spoke to him on episode 25 of Talking Prisoner. He had some amazing stories. Yeah.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to catch up with all of your episodes.
Yeah. They go on for a bit. Also, you worked with Toddy Goldsmith. What was it like working with Toddy?
Yeah, great. Really great. She was sweet. I mean, she was sort of the bitchy girlfriend. So,
yeah.
That was odd. And she's on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here now, isn't she?
She is, yeah. Great show.
You wouldn't get me on that for love nor money. I'm not going anywhere near snakes, cockroaches, or spiders.
Really? Wouldn't do that show?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm not a celebrity anyway, but you couldn't get me eating like emu's eyeballs and stuff. Just no. Couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah, it's pretty full on what they do on that show.
Oh my God. And good on them. I mean, I know the beautiful Rhonda Birchmore, and I was watching the thing anyway. Ugh.
Yeah.
Turn the key.
I think we've actually pretty well covered the next question or so.
Yeah, we've covered a few actually. So what I'll move on to was, now your dad, we're going back to your dad again. Sorry. It's he was on Prisoner as Mervin Pringle. Now, you didn't have any scenes with him, did you? Were you on at the same time?
No, I didn't. And that's really sad. But, and again, please, fans, let me know. There is one episode that we both were in.
Yes, there is.
And I don't know what it is, but I remember being sort of quite chuffed that both of our names were in the credits together.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, no, it sounds a bit pathetic, doesn't it? But it's sort of nice. I mean, because we didn't really ever work together, so
yeah,
that's the nearest thing, I think.
Yeah, fantastic.
Any other memories of your dad's time on the show?
Oh, look, I think he had an absolute ball. I was trying to find, I've got a great black and white photo somewhere, which was a photo that was taken in the laundry of the whole cast. When they take the publicity shot, but it's not the publicity shots where they're all got their fingers up each other's noses and pinching from faces. I'll try and find it and whack it on the.
Actually, if you could email us some photos of anything to put up on the Facebook page, that'd be great. The fans would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
I'll find some stuff.
Did you ever get to meet Joy Westmore, who played your dad's love interest? They had a sporty affair at the start.
Yeah, I know. I did meet Joy a few times. I can't remember. Mum had a fabulous joke about Joy, something about wife swapping or something. Anyway, but yeah, no, I didn't really know Joy, I'm afraid. But I know Dad really enjoyed working with her, and they were, they got on really, really well. I mean, you can tell when you watch scenes where there's a lovely rapport.
Yeah,
she was a lot of fun.
Yeah, beautiful.
As was your dad.
Oh, thank you.
Techniques for learning lines. Do you have any?
Oh, well, Dad actually gave me a technique, which was to record your dialogue, record the other people's dialogue, and then whisper yours. So, I'd be like, hi, how are you going today? What are you up to? I don't know. And so, and just that thing of being able to, because often if I read it, I don't remember it. Whereas if I'm listening to someone have a conversation with me and I'm just whispering my own lines, then, and now I do it now, it's really easy to do in the car and while I'm washing up, and then it becomes much more second nature rather than trying to remember what the words are, and more conversational. So yeah, recording other people's dialogue and whispering my own, basically.
Yeah.
And
And we know Prisoner really pushed the boundaries with storylines. I mean, they really sort of took them to the next level. What did you think of some of the storylines on Prisoner?
Oh, look, I remember the first one that shocked me was seeing Maggie Kirkpatrick going into someone's cell and putting on her black gloves.
Oh, Peggy Wilson, yeah.
I was like, what? That was, I remember that. And no, was it Frankie? You love me, Jaw? Do you love me, Jaw? All that being a bit like, and because Frankie was like, that was right at the start, wasn't it? Frankie Doyle and all that. That was pretty, not really anything we'd seen on Australian television, I mean, I remember number 96, which was outrageous because you saw full frontal nude men and women. And that was just so over the top and ridiculously funny. But Prisoner was, some serious storylines there. And I mean, I've never, I know you're probably going to ask this later, but, I haven't seen Wentworth. I don't have Foxtel. But I know, like Sally Upton. I don't know if you know Sally Ann Upton, fabulous Sally. She played the character, I think, who got her tongue ripped out or something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I saw photos of that and I was like, okay, so clearly they're keeping up the tradition.
Oh, Wentworth, really, that they went to the next level. Like Prisoner looks like an angel compared to Wentworth.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Like, okay, that's cool. But Wentworth is like a whole nother, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to getting there.
And Sally up the tongue scene, that was just, it just threw you. You're like, whoa, wow.
Well, good on them. They sort of have to go there, don't they? I mean, why would you remake something without giving it, we were talking before about remaking like Sex and the City or something like that. It's like if you're gonna do something, you may as well give it another shot.
Yeah. Definitely.
Would you find it difficult to play Kay being off the rails and getting mixed up in a bad crowd?
No, it was funny because I don't know if you know why we ended up doing the Myra escaping episodes. Do you know why that came to be?
I don't personally.
Anyway, so when you're filming a TV show and it's all in studio, the constraints of that is pretty full on in terms of time. And I believe, and I might be wrong, but I believe that Annie wanted to do a play, and she got cast in a play, and she'd been in Prisoner for quite some time, and so they needed to get her to be able to record, a month's worth of episodes in like a week.
Yep.
And they couldn't do that if it was in the prison, because if it was in the prison, she'd have to be with all the other women and stuff. Whereas if it was just with me and Alan, we could shoot like all of those drug scenes that would, I don't even know how many episodes there were of that, like what the time span was of that. But Myra was definitely out of the prison for at least a month, I think, wasn't she? Yeah. So basically it was, thank you to Annie for getting that play, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have been brought back. So they came up with the storyline that she had to escape to get Kay. Excuse me, it's getting better. See, I'm only doing it once every week. And I mean, it was sort of easy to do because I was so tired for so much time in the makeup chair. And it was so hot where we were, and they had me in like black jeans and a black top. So playing miserable and annoyed was quite easy. Second nature.
Speaking of what you just said about Annie going to do the play, they actually did the same thing for your friend Jane Clifton. She had a play or a musical, I think, at the time, Ken, and they brought in Ian Bradley's wife, Annie Lucas, as a character to carry that over.
Right.
Margo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually really lovely that they did let people do that. But I mean, I wasn't a permanent cast member, so I don't know sort of how the contracts worked in regards to, you know, maybe at the end of that contract, her first contract, she might have said, yeah, but I need 2 months off to do a play.
Yeah.
So off we headed up to Kangaroo Flats to sweat a lot.
Would you have liked to have stayed in the show longer than you did?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think after the first thing, once Myra was inside, it was obvious that I wasn't required.
Yeah.
I did go visit her in the prison at one point, I think. Have you looked at my website? Have you looked at my prisoner page on my website?
Yeah, I've looked at your whole website.
All right, yeah. So I think there's a picture of me with Maggie outside the prison. I love doing that because I was like in the prison. Well, not in the prison, outside Channel 10, where I love the fact they put those boxes on the wall to make it look like a prison. Yeah, I mean, I just sort of, I think I was just quite matter of fact that once Annie was in, I wasn't really in the show anymore. I don't think I sort of thought, oh, I wish it was longer. And then when the escape storyline came along, it was nice to go back.
Yeah.
You were really excellent in the drug withdrawal scenes. Did you do any research or receive any advice before filming those scenes?
Oh, thanks for that question. And I mean, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I think I read some stuff, and I think I sort of looked at a few photos and things. I mean, obviously the resources nowadays with the old internet is very different to then. But I think if memory serves me rightly, I think I read a book. So I can't remember what it's called, I'm afraid. I think I read a book from a girl, about a girl and about a drug addict. Yeah. I don't think I really talked to anybody about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will share with you, though, a lot of comments on obviously there's a lot of episodes on Prisoner on YouTube, and a lot of the comments about your part that you played with the drug withdrawals, they just said it was just so spot on, fantastic acting, brilliant. I mean, there's so many comments there talking about.
Wow, that's so nice. That's really nice. Actually, it really did help that we were in such a confined space and it was so hot and dry. I really do, because as you said, the majority of the scenes were outside the house or in the sort of living room, and then on the bed, and yeah, I was hot. I was uncomfortable, and I felt, it's terrible, isn't it? Because I was 17, so I don't know how much sort of social responsibility I felt towards it. It was, my job was to tell this story. In hindsight, I probably these days would feel much more responsible to it, but maybe that would make me try to act more, rather than just saying the words that I had, which was a lot of bugger off and I just want some drugs, Mummy. Please give me some drugs, Mum. Mum, give me some drugs. And then screaming at her. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the scenes really helped, and I think having Anne and Alan Hopgood made it helped. But thank you very much for those compliments. That's really lovely to hear.
Yeah. Now, the last question before we get to the fan questions, which is also a fan question. You had a non-speaking scene at Myra's funeral. Do you know why that was? And it's also a question shared by Cole Taylor. It always seemed odd to me they brought both you and Peter back for Myra's funeral, but you had no dialogue and you were just seen in the background. I thought there may have been at least a conversation between you and Anne Reynolds or Jeff McRae. Was there meant to be more to that scene?
Yeah, and I know.
He also, I must say, you also portrayed the drug addiction, cold turkey scenes amazingly.
Oh, thank you. Who was that, Cole?
Cole Taylor, yeah.
Thank you, Cole Taylor. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I remember getting that phone call later on. Myra's parked it out of the funeral. And I think I was a bit like, we were sort of set dressing, really. And we were in the background, weren't we? there was, well, as far as I know, there wasn't anything more to it. It might have been nice for some condolences to have been shared, perhaps, or a little bit of
on the coffin or something.
The what?
Throw a rose onto the coffin or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think we were in the front of the shot, were we? We were like sort of
background. Yeah.
Right back there. No, I have no idea what the rationale was with regards to that. It might have been nice for us to, maybe I should have gone over and punched someone or thrown them in the grave or something. Got myself
or told people to bugger off.
Yeah. Or tell them all to bugger off, push her in the grave, get arrested by the cops, and go into jail.
Exactly.
There we go.
See?
Connor Mueller said, loved meeting Sally earlier this year. I'm not sure if he's talking about this year or last year. She was very kind and giving of her time. Sally added so much to the Myra Desmond character storyline and really did some brilliant acting as Kay. He also asked what your favourite memory was working with Anne, which we've covered, but I just wanted to read out that comment for
Connor. I think Connor, if my memory serves me right, I believe Connor came to see Hey Mr. Prime Minister, which we did at the Cabaret Festival last July. Okay. So I think he came. I think Connor lives in, if I'm right, lives in Adelaide.
He does.
And he has lots of memorabilia and stuff. So So thanks, Connor.
Yeah, big Prisoner fan there.
David Hammond says, I'd like to ask how Sally felt living in the UK at the time Prisoner was so big on TV and in popular culture, with ITV and Channel 5 showing it, comedy parodies, stage shows and musicals, 1987 until it was last shown in the early 2000s. Was she proud, or did she get annoyed when it was often pilloried as cheap soap with poor production values?
Do you know what? Sorry, was that Donald? Who was the question? David. I've got a memory like a fish. David, thank you, David. Look, I saw the Prisoner musical, which my friend Alison Jaya, who I told you I was in Jerry Springer with, and she was in it. And Lily Savage, who is Paul O'Grady, who's a drag queen, who was one, it was very funny. I didn't mind that at all. I think the weird thing is people sort of took the mickey out of it, but almost in the way, like, when you watch things like The Bold and the Beautiful, or in the UK, you've got like EastEnders and Emmerdale and shows like that, and they're outrageous, But I mean, there were parodies and things, but I actually think the affection for Prisoner, I think people really, really, really liked it. I think they really liked the fact it was gritty and I don't, the poor production values, I sort of disagree with in a way, because, I mean, what else do you want in a prison? You've got a library, a rec room, the laundry. You've got the governor's office. You've got the, wherever the reception area, whatever that is, the signing in area and stuff. What else are you going to have in a prison? You're going to have gold bars. You're going to have like some nice artwork. I mean, I don't know what more production values you could have. There were outside shots, outside, that in the garden and stuff. But I think it's not like you're going to zhuzh up the uniforms and, put a bit more lippy on it. I thought the production values were 100% fine for a prison. I don't know what else you would possibly do to make it seem a little bit more posh.
And it was the late 70s and 80s. I mean,
yeah,
it was brilliant for its time.
I think they were actually talking about the shaky walls and so forth. But when I think about it, Doctor Who, in its very, very infancy, also had some pretty shaky production values too.
Oh, so. Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. I'd forgotten about the shaky walls. That's always funny. But yeah, when you watch some of those old, even the what was his name? Tom, the one with the long scarf, Doctor Who. Him.
Yes.
I can't remember his
cardboard Daleks.
Yeah. Yeah, the Daleks were all cardboard, and the thing, yeah, oh my God. I mean, that's actually the fun thing about the new reboot of Doctor Who, is that they decided not to have any CGI and not to have, you know, to keep that sort of slightly naff
Look.
Everything's not everything, you know, rather than go for hyper realism, but make it still a bit camp and a bit. I actually think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I spoke to Mike Berry last year from my memorabilia business, who is the last surviving cast member of Are You Being Served? And he was talking about the lift doors, how they'd always jam, and the guy behind it always trying to open the lift doors, and the show still went on, but the lift doors would never open properly.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It was funny. Darren Hembrow also said, yes, amazing having you come on. I saw her once in Swansea, Wales, UK with, is it Siri Dupree? Have I pronounced that right?
Siri Dupree.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's so great. So Kerry is a female impersonator, does incredible impressions of Cher and Shirley Bassey, you know, all sorts of, and Kerry's from Swansea, from Wales. I did Les Mis with his sister, Ria, and he, me and another girl sort of we're like I think we were called, what were we called? There's a poster here. We were called the Gobstoppers. So we've done a job in Swansea, and you saw me. That's really lovely. Yeah. Oh, nice.
I partially asked a question which you've already answered about, did you ever meet Joy Westmore?
Yeah.
So Aid, you've got a mention, and we can move on to the next one.
Same with Martin, actually, about your dad Ernie, which a lot of other fans did ask as well. So we've taken that one.
What did he ask?
He was asking about your dad. There was, you know, when we put your interview up, there was a lot of comments about your dad, a lot of messages as well. So we've covered
that's
that.
Lovely. That's so lovely.
Yeah, he was a fan favorite, definitely.
Oh, that's nice.
Lee Van Fries says, he gives you a compliment regarding being going cold turkey in your performance as Kay, but he also says, I always found it comical though how the actor who played Myra's late husband Bill also played a taxi driver a year or two before that, who picked up Lizzie when she was drunkenly attempting to locate Myra, but he hadn't heard of his own wife. Obviously, Vince D'Amico was playing two totally unrelated roles, but linked to storylines related directly to Myra herself.
But isn't that funny? I mean, that's what we've been talking about, you know, a lot of the time, about how many people get sort of recurring parts. It's hysterical. It's so funny. Oh well, but it's good that actors keep getting employed. That's, you know, we like that. That's an important thing.
Yeah. We spoke to Will Juma a few weeks ago, who played Lionel Fellows, and he had 7 roles on the show, which I think
Gosh. Well, I was talking before about, doing those Christmas concerts with Susan Ann Walker last month, and I actually saw Will and his wife there. So I saw him.
Yeah, he was fantastic. John Walters said, I want to ask her if she ended up inside, would she have liked for Kay to become top dog to honour her mother? And he also said, you look gorgeous.
Ah, thanks. Oh my gosh, if Kay went inside, look, I think Kay wouldn't take any crap. I think she'd be quite hard. Top dog. Yeah, I could go with that. Yeah. Was that John?
John Walters, yeah.
John, I reckon I'd totally be a top dog, don't you? I think so. Yeah. Does it mean I get to operate the press and burn people's hands?
Oh, yeah.
I always love that story about the guy, like you were saying about the lift doors, about, you know, the steam on the press. Ken, wasn't there someone lying on the floor who'd turn the knob to get the steam going?
Yeah, props guy with dry ice.
Yeah, the magic of television.
Bonnie Davis Shacko says, wow, I can't wait to see this one. What was it like to work with the legendary Anne Phelan? Did you stay in touch with her?
Thank you for your question. It was wonderful working with her, of course. We saw each other a lot. Like, we weren't best mates. Sally Ann Upton, who I was just talking to you about, her and Annie were best mates.
Yeah.
But I did, as I said, I remember doing a charity concert once and she was doing it as well. I saw her at opening nights. I saw, like, I'd see her around the traps, I think is what they say. But also, if I didn't live here between, 1991 and 2004. So that was a bit of a big chunk. So, but I did see her. But she, had a little church in Romsey where she sort of kept her life, and she was very happy there. But I think the last time I saw her, if I remember rightly, was at the bar at the Comedy Theatre. I think it was the Green Room Awards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave Abbott-Smith said drug addiction was much more misunderstood in previous generations, and there is still a stigma about people struggling with addiction. How do you feel your storyline was handled, both at the time and looking back?
David, was it David?
Dave Abbott-Smith, yes.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for your question. Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very different era, and it was a very different. The social responsibility we have for things nowadays is, we're so much more aware. But I actually think it was handled quite well. Just because, they both, obviously Myra made a big sacrifice, but I feel like it was loving and I feel like it was supportive. They fought her when she needed to, go over that sort of cold turkey hump. So look, I'm not an expert on drug addiction, and I'm not an expert on recovery from drug addiction. So I'm totally open. I don't know if I can really have a strong opinion on it, because that would probably be best for someone who's an expert to analyse. But I feel like it was done reasonably well. I hope it was.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah. I have a little anecdote though, because I had so much makeup on, and it was like 4 hours of jaundice makeup and yellow and spots and all that sort of stuff. And my new boyfriend at the time, I was going over to his house, and we were shooting a bit late, and I didn't really have time to take my makeup off. So I was in my taxi going to his house, and I remember pulling up next to a car, and this woman going, because I'm there like looking like I'm about to die. It's terrible. And I think I went, hi.
Ollie Militek asks a similar question. I'd like to ask Sally, what was it like doing such intense scenes when you were trying to sober up from drug addiction?
Oh, and this is another one for fans who want to watch the episode and feel what I felt. The one where we did the really big one where I'm on the bed and they're going, and I'm saying, you left me, Dad, didn't you? And I'm screaming at her, and she's going, what's she saying, Wally? Blah blah blah. So when I'm doing my scenes, I've got a cameraman between my legs, and I'm doing it into the camera. And same, when the cameraman's being me, obviously Anne and Alan are doing it there. I can't remember the dialogue, but it was all like, you hated me for the trial, I'm glad they put you away. And I'm screaming at her. And then she slaps me and it takes me out of it. And I sort of go, I'm sorry. And we hug. Well, she slapped me so hard, like really hard. She asked me if she could, and I said yes, so it's fine. She said, I'm going to slap you really hard. I went, all right. But I'd never been slapped in my life. And that I knew what it was like to be slapped. So fans, check out that scene, because when she slaps me, you can see physically I can't move. Like, it's so hard. So I go, glad they put you away. And she slaps me, and I go, and I lie in the bed, and I'm supposed to go and hug her, and I go, I'm sorry, and I can't. Like, I'm actually sort of winded.
Wow.
And then Yeah, and then she hugged me and I was sobbing my ass off and she was crying too. And I know, and again, I think it was one of those things where they said cut and everyone sort of left. I think we stayed there and had a bit of a cuddle for a bit longer. So it was, that was pretty intense. I'm pretty sure because we had, you know, the shot from the side, the camera here and the camera here. So the two POV shots and the room shot in that tiny room. Literally, there was probably about not even a metre around the whole bed. And it was about 36 degrees in central Victoria. And we shot it all day. So, you know, when she slapped me, it was just like, and you can just, and it's so funny because someone was talking about it a while ago and I showed them the scene and they were like, oh God, I can see how much that hurt. Yeah. And also Annie's an actor. She knows how to slap. Like if you actually really slap someone badly, it doesn't make much of a sound. And she, like, it's a crack. I'm surprised she didn't dislocate my jaw. But yeah, if the fans want to go and feel what I feel, even talking about it, I can feel myself going, ah! And that's why that I'm sorry is like really hurt. That really hurt. So those scenes were pretty intense. And I remember there's one where Alan gives me a cup of tea or something or coffee, and I'm like, it's not coffee I need, and I had to shove it all over, you know, like push it out of his hand, and everyone's put down all the, you know, the tarp and stuff to not ruin these poor people's carpet. You know, and I hadn't really done, I had done television, what am I talking about? But I hadn't done stuff that was that sort of intense, and, you know, sort of having to hit your mark, be in the shot, not if I move that way, then Annie's going to be out of shot, and I need to make sure I'm framed here while I'm doing the dialogue and giving it some real huge emotional truth. That was a really, really good thing, a really good lesson. And yeah, tricky. Thanks for that question. Now you know about the slap. Slap is real.
It's funny you talk about the slaps though. We spoke to Maggie Kirkpatrick a few weeks ago and she said the same thing, that the only slaps she could do on the show were real slaps. She didn't want to do these fake slaps, and she said the same thing.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, you know, I've done lots of theatre shows where Jerry Springer, for example, me and the character Baby Jane, we had this massive bitch fight, which involved, it was really physical and it was beautifully choreographed by the fight director at the Royal National Theatre. And so, you know, but it's sometimes you can't get away with it on TV. And also, you, as soon as you try to stop it, it just looks terrible.
Yeah.
However, you shouldn't really be able to hit people on screen, but it was the old days.
You probably should have slapped the cameraman between your legs for a starter.
Maybe. I remember that being very odd, going, I'm shouting into and especially when a lens is this close to you and you're going, you hate me, don't you? And you stop and you go, I do something very strange for a living, don't I? This is a very... I remember having an audition for a pie commercial once where it was about someone had locked themselves in a supermarket freezer, and I was there and I was doing my casting, and I was like, and the casting director went, no, the freezer's smaller. And I went, no, it's tighter. And I was like, I walked out and I thought, this is a very, very silly industry. Miming being stuck in a freezer. Silly old thing.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been so gracious with your time, so I do thank you. But before we wrap up, is there anything you can share with the fans that you're currently working on, or any upcoming projects that we could share?
Well, Mrs. Prime Minister, as I said, at the Mimo Music Hall in St Kilda. I think there's a bit of detail I wrote on my website homepage, or you can go to the Mimo Music Hall webpage and it'll be on that. And it'd be really lovely to have bums on seats. And you get 2 prisoner people for the price of 1. Me and Jane Clifton. And Jane's got a couple of corker songs. She's absolutely fantastic. But thank you so much for having me. And it's so lovely to talk about Dad. You know, and it's so lovely to know that he's remembered with such affection and such love, because you know, he deserves it. And so thank you for that. And I wish all of you a very, very, very happy, hopefully safer and better 2022.
We will. And thank you for sharing the memories about your dad. It was beautiful. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add before we go, Ken?
No, I don't think so. I'm still thinking about being slapped, which I was once, quite severely by I was actually acting in a film, and I said to the girl, "Really hit me, do it." I didn't realise that young girls had a lot of weight behind a slap, and I got knocked sideways. But yeah, but that was fun.
We're gonna leave you. Have you ever been slapped? Come on, everyone. Has anyone been?
Oh yeah,
really slapped?
yeah.
Slapped. Yeah, it does hurt.
I think Ken's wife still slaps him. I'm not sure.
Very good challenge. Yeah.
Well, Annie Phelan, marvelous actress, beautiful human, and stellar slapper.
Stella slapper.
She's
well, that can be interpreted in a few different ways in Australia.
Yeah. Anne Phelan, what a slapper.
What a slapper.
I'll leave you with that.
That was episode 31 of Talking Prisoner. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our YouTube channel and share our videos where you can. Please also like all our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And this episode of Talking Prisoner is also available on all the podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the rest of them, and on the talkingprisoner.com website. Thank you so much, Sally. And that's all right.
Thank you. All the best.